Alright everybody, so what this video is going to be, this is going to be our goodbye video to Starlink. And in it, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons that I've had with it over the last 2 years, as well as why it's going, what it's getting replaced with, and the decisions that govern that change. So stay tuned and we're going to get into all the details. I'll also be running a speed test to show you guys what the speed looks like for Starlink 2 years in.
I've had Starlink for roughly 2 years, and to get right to the point of the experience, it was great overall. Could I stay on Starlink permanently? Absolutely. The good far outweighed the bad, but there were some issues, and we'll get into them toward the end of the video. But first, a quick overview. Starlink is a high-speed, low-latency satellite internet. People might have different ideas about what exactly that means, but traditional satellite internet has been known for pretty fast download speeds with terrible upload speeds and impossible to use latency. What is latency? It's important to know because it is the usual downfall of bad internet providers. Latency is basically the time delay between when you request something and when it happens. This isn't a huge deal for people who just want to watch movies or stream shows, but it becomes a real issue with gaming. People who want to just watch TV simply need a good download speed. Gamers, however, need good latency. Starlink came along and promised low latency and great speeds. It claimed to achieve this with low-flying satellites, which greatly reduces travel time for the signal. Starlink is marketed for people who don't otherwise have any high-speed internet. Though the speeds are competitive with other high-speed options, the price would certainly turn you away if you had any other option. But before the negatives, let's get into what Starlink does well. Highlights: incredible speed. Starlink doesn't have speed tiers like most companies do. They offer one speed, and that one speed is quite fast. Quoted from Starlink's website: download speeds between 25 and 220 megabits per second, with the majority of users experiencing speeds of over 100 megabits per second. Upload speeds are typically between 5 and 20. 2. Available in remote areas. Of course, this is Starlink's claim to fame. You can get Starlink almost anywhere as long as you have a clear view of the sky. Number 3. Unlimited data. Though there was a brief period during my 2 years with Starlink that Starlink was actually throttling the data at a certain point, it was short-lived, and now it is back to unlimited data and has been for the majority of my time with the company. Number 4, low latency. It's hard to believe, but Starlink is a completely viable gaming internet option. But let's delve deeper into the technical specs with a few speed test snapshots that I took. Okay, so I did a couple of quick speed tests with Starlink. As you can see here, the speeds are slightly higher than what they estimated the average person would get. There are a couple speeds that you see on the screen here. The one on the left is simply the Wi-Fi speed. This is only important if you have really fast internet. Sometimes you can bottleneck on your Wi-Fi router. That's not the case here. As you can see, it's 271 megabits per second with a 164 upload speed, which is actually really fast, but that is just the Wi-Fi router. If you look over on the right-hand side, you'll see the Starlink speed router to internet, which is 249, which is still very good. That's higher than what they estimate. But what you can see is the 23 megabits per second upload, which is quite slow comparing to the download speed. And that's where satellite often has its problems, is in the upload speed. Though with that upload speed, you won't have any problems doing most things. Going on to the second speed test that I did, it's showing a slightly lower, yet still pretty fast speed of 184 download, which is good. I'm also getting a 27 megabit per second upload, but the important part of this screen is to notice the latency. You see the 42 millisecond latency. That's very, very good. This is an unheard of latency up until now for a satellite connection. Usually, well, I shouldn't say usually, but often with other internet companies that provide satellite, you're looking at a latency of over 1,000, which is actually a second. So if picture gaming, Every time you did anything, there would be a second delay before it would register on the game, making it completely impossible to do anything. As I said before, that wouldn't really affect you watching TV, but for doing things that require an instant reaction, it's not possible. 42 is considered really good. Anything under 100 is actually considered playable. So in that range, you're talking about high-speed internet connection, you wouldn't notice any latency at all, which is so impressive with Starlink. Of course, this wouldn't be a goodbye video without some negatives, because there would be no reason to say goodbye. While Starlink has impressive speeds, it does have a few negatives that result in it being edged out by the competition. First off is the price. Starlink's initial cost was roughly $7.99 for the dish itself, and then another $160 a month for the service. No other internet provider comes even close to that price. The price of the dish itself has dropped significantly since I first purchased mine, but it is still above the cost of installation from any of its competitors, and the monthly fee is still higher than any other internet service provider. Secondly, and most importantly, is the service interruption. Though I was incredibly impressed by how consistent the internet was, there were no unexplained outages if you place your dish in the proper position. For the record, requires a good bit of work on your end. The same can't be said for the connection during bad weather. Starlink holds up perfectly well in light rain and snow. In fact, I don't believe snowfall ever had an effect on the dish. It has a built-in melting mechanism that works very well. Rain, however, is a different story. I had to accept the fact that during heavy rainfall, I was going to get random interruptions the entire time until the rain lightened up. This usually resulted in the internet cutting off for a minute or two, maybe a couple seconds here and there, or possibly 10 to 15 minutes during a very hard rainfall. Overall, it was incredibly impressive service. I could have happily stayed with Starlink, and I encourage anybody who's on the fence about it to just jump in. If you are coming from any other unreliable satellite competitor, you certainly won't be disappointed. My decision to switch was based on the fact that FiberOp came to my area, and there's no way Starlink can compete. FiberOp is many times faster, considerably cheaper, and it is also unaffected by weather, making it a very clear choice. I really enjoyed my time with Starlink, and I hope that this video has helped you know a little bit more about the service through my experience. And thanks again for watching.